Ferrari did not panic because Hamilton's tires wore out. They panicked because the degradation data may have exposed what was killing them. And that is the part Ferrari cannot hide from. Because this was not normal tire wear. This was not just Hamilton pushing too hard. This was not just a bad strategy call. It was a pattern. A Ferrari that started with enough pace to create belief, then slowly forced its own tires to carry the cost of something deeper: power loss, energy weakness, heat, drag, and pressure that turned a podium fight into survival. No smoke, no crash, no dramatic failure. Just a car that kept running while the data revealed something far more dangerous. If the tires are the problem, Ferrari can manage them. But if the car itself is creating the degradation, then Hamilton is not just fighting rivals. He is fighting a hidden weakness inside the Ferrari. And if Ferrari does not fix it fast, Austria may not be remembered as the race where Hamilton lost tire life. It may be remembered as the race where Ferrari's championship dream started degrading too. Subscribe to the channel. At first, Ferrari could describe Austria with one simple sentence: Hamilton's tires went away. That sounds familiar. That sounds manageable. That sounds like the kind of problem every Formula One team faces at some point in a long season. But that is exactly why it was so dangerous. Because the easiest explanation is not always the true one. And after Austria, the real fear inside Ferrari was not that Hamilton had tire degradation. The real fear was that the degradation was only the symptom, the visible damage, the part everyone could see, while the deeper problem was still hiding inside the car. Because Hamilton did not begin that race looking helpless. He had enough pace to make Ferrari believe. He had enough position to make the podium feel possible. He had enough confidence in the opening phase to make the garage think the day could still become something important. That is what made the collapse feel so uncomfortable. If the Ferrari had been slow from the start, there would be no mystery. The team could blame setup. The fans could blame the circuit. The analysts could say the car simply did not suit Austria. But Hamilton's Ferrari did not tell that clean story. It gave hope first. Then it started taking things away. A little grip, a little energy, a little straight line protection, a little confidence on corner exit, a little tire life every time Hamilton had to defend, recover, or compensate for something the car was not giving him. And suddenly, the race was no longer about attacking. It was about surviving the consequences. That is the first clue. When a driver is attacking, the tires are part of the weapon. When a driver is surviving, the tires become part of the cost. And in Austria, Hamilton's tires seem to be paying a cost Ferrari could not ignore. That is why degradation data matters. It does not just show that the tires were worn. It can show why they were worn, where the heat was building, where the car was sliding, where Hamilton had to apply throttle more carefully, where he had to defend harder than planned, where the lap time began to fall away, where the tire life stopped matching the strategy Ferrari wanted. And if that data shows the tires were being overworked because of a deeper weakness in the car, then the whole story changes. Because then Ferrari cannot simply say, manage the tires better. Hamilton already knows how to do that. He has built part of his greatness on tire control. He knows how to stretch a stint. He knows how to keep a car alive when the race is tense. He knows how to make tires last longer than they should while still keeping pressure on the cars ahead. So if Hamilton is suddenly trapped in a race where the tires are fading too quickly, Ferrari has to ask the question nobody in red wants to ask. Is the driver using the tires, or is the car consuming them? Those are not the same thing. A driver using the tires is racing. A car consuming the tires is warning you. And Austria may have been a warning, because a Formula One tire is the final place where every compromise appears. If the car has too much drag, the tires eventually feel it. If the power delivery is not smooth, the tires feel it. If the energy deployment fades too early, the tires feel it. If the car gets too hot, the tires feel it. If Hamilton has to defend in awkward places because the Ferrari lacks straight line strength, the tires feel it. The rubber becomes a receipt. It shows the price of every hidden weakness. And in Austria, that receipt looked expensive. This is the part many people miss. Tire degradation does not always begin in the corner where the car slides. Sometimes it begins much earlier. It begins on the straight when the Ferrari does not have enough protection against a rival behind. It begins before the braking zone when Hamilton has to defend harder than he wants. It begins on corner exit when he has to ask more from the rear tires to recover lost speed. It begins when the car is slightly out of balance and the tires are forced to do work the rest of the package should be helping with. One lap like that is normal. A few laps like that are manageable. But if the same compromise repeats every lap, the tires start to lose the battle. And once they lose it, the race changes. The car slides more. The driver slows down. The strategy becomes defensive. The rivals sense weakness. The pressure grows. And the tires suffer even more. That is the loop Ferrari had to fear. Weakness creates pressure. Pressure creates tire stress. Tire stress creates degradation. Degradation creates pace loss. Pace loss creates more pressure. That is not a normal race rhythm. That is a trap. And if Hamilton's degradation data exposed that loop, then Ferrari's problem is much bigger than worn tires. It means the car may be creating its own collapse. Slowly, quietly, without ever breaking. That is why Austria hit so hard. There was no easy failure to blame. No part lying in pieces. No retirement that allowed Ferrari to say, this was unlucky. The car finished. Hamilton kept driving. The result looked disappointing, but not catastrophic. And that is exactly why the data mattered more than the result. The result showed 5th place. The data showed the path to 5th place. And the path is where the truth lives. Ferrari had to look at whether Hamilton was losing tire performance because he pushed too hard, or because the Ferrari forced him into a race where every defensive move and every recovery attempt cost more rubber than it should. That is the key difference. If Hamilton overused the tires, the solution is simple. Adjust the driving. Protect earlier. Change the pace. But if the car made him overuse the tires, the solution is not simple at all. Because then the problem lives in the machine. In how it deploys energy. In how it handles heat. In how much drag it carries. In how stable it is under braking. In how cleanly it puts power down. In how much freedom it gives Hamilton to race without burning through the tools he needs later. And freedom is everything. A championship car gives a driver freedom. Freedom to attack without destroying the tires. Freedom to defend without draining the battery. Freedom to extend a stint without turning the final laps into survival. Freedom to choose when the race comes alive. But a limited car removes freedom. It forces the driver to choose between two bad options. Push now and suffer later. Save now and lose ground. Defend now and overheat the tires. Protect the tires and become vulnerable. That is not control. That is compromise. And compromise is the enemy of a title fight. Hamilton did not move to Ferrari to live inside compromise. He moved for the most emotional challenge in Formula One. A final great chapter in red. The kind of story that could turn history into something almost mythic. But that story depends on the car doing more than looking fast for a few laps. It has to protect its tires. It has to deploy energy properly. It has to resist pressure. It has to stay dangerous when the race gets hard. Austria raised the doubt that Ferrari may not have that full package yet. Not because the car has no speed. That would be easier. The Ferrari does have speed. It has shown enough to make the dream feel real. And that is why the degradation problem is so painful. A hopeless car kills belief quickly. A flawed fast car keeps belief alive just long enough to hurt everyone. It looks competitive early. It makes the garage believe. It makes fans lean forward. It lets Hamilton feel the possibility. Then the tires begin to fade. The energy problem appears. The defense becomes harder. The race becomes smaller. And suddenly, Ferrari is not chasing the win. Ferrari is trying to stop the damage from getting worse. That is the emotional shift Austria created. And it is the exact shift Ferrari cannot allow to become normal. Because once rivals understand that a Ferrari can be pushed into tire trouble, they will attack that weakness deliberately. They will sit behind Hamilton and force him to defend. They will make him use battery. They will make him use the rear tires on corner exit. They will pressure him into braking deeper. They will wait for the degradation to arrive. And once that happens, a private data problem becomes a public weapon. That is what makes the situation serious. Ferrari's degradation data may not just tell Ferrari what went wrong. It may tell every rival how to hurt them. That is why panic becomes understandable. Not panic in the dramatic sense. Not chaos. Not shouting. But urgency. The kind of urgency that says, we cannot let this pattern repeat. Because if it repeats, the season starts to build around it. Every track with heavy traction becomes a concern. Every race with high temperatures becomes a concern. Every long straight becomes a concern. Every stint where Hamilton has to defend becomes a concern. And a championship campaign cannot be built on concern. It has to be built on trust. Hamilton has to trust that when Ferrari asks him to push, the tires will survive. He has to trust that when the team tells him to defend, the car has enough straight-line strength to make that defense realistic. He has to trust that when he manages early, there will be performance left later. He has to trust that the car is not quietly turning every aggressive lap into a debt the tires will collect before the finish. That trust is what Austria threatened, because the degradation data may have shown that Hamilton was not simply managing tires. He was managing the car's deeper weakness through the tires. And that is an exhausting way to race. It turns every lap into calculation. It turns every attack into a risk. It turns every defense into a cost. It turns every strategy into a question. How much can the tires take before the real problem appears again? That is not how Ferrari wants Hamilton thinking. They want him hunting. They want him pressuring rivals. They want him turning red into fear again. But to do that, the car has to stop asking its tires to solve problems they were never meant to solve. That is the first major layer of this story. Austria was not frightening because Hamilton had tire wear. It was frightening because the data may have revealed that the tire wear was connected to something deeper. A serious weakness in how the Ferrari manages power, energy, heat, drag, and pressure across a full race. And if Ferrari does not break that chain quickly, the tires will not be the only thing degrading. So will Hamilton's control over the championship fight. The next layer is where Ferrari's tire problem stops being a tire problem. Because once Hamilton's degradation data suggested the tires were being overworked, Ferrari had to ask something much more serious. What was forcing them to overwork? That is the question that changes everything. Because in Formula One, tires rarely die alone. They die because the car is asking too much from them. Too much traction on corner exit. Too much sliding through the middle of the corner. Too much braking stress. Too much heat. Too much defending. Too much compensation for a weakness somewhere else. And in Austria, that weakness may have started long before the tires actually faded. It may have started on the straights. That sounds strange at first because most people separate straight line speed from tire life. Power is one thing, rubber is another, but inside a Grand Prix, they are connected.